Oh,
And there we go.
got it.
I think I caught it early
Yeah.
this time. Usually there's a long delay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our fun cocktail hour discussion of art as a healing tool for healing and a view of the Survivor art gallery that we have just put online. This is our pre-Final Friday entertainment. So if you
I'm the host now.
Uh-oh, we lost Will.
Will,
Will.
this is so awkward.
I know. He was getting us started and everything.
I know. Do you think I should text him?
Yeah, that might be a good idea. I think maybe he lost internet connection or something.
Yeah. Well, I've been having weird internet connection here, so like I might when I first got on with Will, it wouldn't
go.
I was frozen for a long time.
Yeah. I wonder if it's the weather.
I think it probably is.
Yeah. Not surprising. Yeah, I guess shoot him a text. I don't got my phone in here, but
Yeah, I just shot him a text.
sure it'll be all right.
So Bailey,
Yeah.
the art program at the Willow.
Yeah, I guess I could jump in and talk a little about that since we're missing Will now. Oh wait, he's back. Will. He might be back.
Hey, Will.
hi, I'm back. Sorry, everybody.
It's okay.
That was like super awkward.
We're off to a great start now. Awesome. Yeah, that's never happened before. Again, this is going really well. I'm really proud of this.
Thank God for editing later.
Seriously, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna definitely put this one out on the YouTube and cut that part of it out of there. But why don't we start by going ahead and just introducing ourselves very quickly. My name is Will Averill. I'm the Director of Communications at the Willow. I've been around at the Willow since 2016, so I'm coming up on my 5th year anniversary here, and that is very exciting.
Awesome. My next?
Yeah,
Go for it.
ahead.
Okay, I'll just jump in. I am Margaret Weisbrod-Morris, and I am the CEO of the Lawrence Art Center. On top of that, or behind that, or the reason why I think I'm the CEO of the Art Center is that I'm a painter and a printmaker, and I'm also an art therapist.
Very cool.
Great.
My name is Bailey. I am a general advocate here in Shelter at the Willow. I also oversee our art program here in our art support group. So yeah, that's kind of what I do over here.
Cool. All right, and Bailey has joined us relatively recently, so we're very excited to have you, Bailey. I think this is our first conversation on Zoom, so I'll probably grab you again for another one shortly because I do like to do a series of meets with all of the staff.
Sure.
For tonight's talk, we are on Facebook Live. If I can stay on the actual. If you have questions,
we're on Facebook Live, Will.
Yeah, you guys are on Facebook Live. I don't know where I'm at. I do have the comment section here on my phone. So if you do have any questions or comments throughout tonight's presentation, very informal. Go ahead and throw that in the comments there, and we will attempt to get that answered. If you are watching a recording later on and you have a question, I will put the email address that you can reach us at in the comment section as well. And you can just email us and someone will get back to you. So we really want to hear from you, want to hear what you have to think. But let us start by kind of talking about the broader picture of why we include an art program in Shelter. So to start with that, we're going to have Margaret go ahead and talk a little bit about, because Margaret, you have in your past life, you're an art therapist, which is fantastic. Before you became the head of the art center. So if you would kind of tell us a little bit about the idea behind approaching art as therapy.
This is really off the cuff, so I will stumble my way through it and do my best. Art is therapeutic. The idea behind art therapy is that basically when a picture, speaks 1,000 words, that old saying. It's true. Because a piece of art is visually, there's so many things that can happen at the same time simultaneously in visual art. It makes the process of creating art it makes what's internal and unspoken it brings it out into the world. So, I mean, that's true with any kind of art, but when you're talking about trauma, which is primarily the memory of traumatic memories are primarily sensory and nonverbal. And so it's very difficult to verbalize trauma, to verbalize the experience. That's not the first step. And art is particularly helpful in working with folks who've experienced trauma because it's a sensory experience. It gets that, it's the immediate translation. The memories are immediately translated into something that is other people can understand. So as an art therapist, there's a couple different ways of working. One is to produce the work so that you can look at it and then be able to talk about it. That's one way of working. And then there's another way of working that is art as therapy, which is just basically the process of art, of making the art, is the therapy. And the art therapist is there just as a guide, basically, of how to do something to help somebody, you know, with their skill set, help somebody intervene with them non-verbally if they're getting to a place where they're kind of stuck in the piece. Yeah, I think, you know, that's off the cuff. So do you have any, was that clear?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it's a great start, and I think maybe Bailey, we can launch off of that to say, you know, how it fits into specifically into domestic violence and into a program where we are working with folks who are in a fairly high state of trauma when they come to us. So do you want to address that a bit?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to kind of speak to that a little bit. So kind of what we do here with our art program is it's not an art therapy program. So I guess there's a little bit of difference there. But we provide basically the opportunity for survivors living here to have access to the resources, the time, the creative encouragement, and I suppose encouragement for efficacy as well to create. And that sometimes, you know, isn't a space that may have been in their lives before, or kind of something that they've ever really gotten to experience. And in other cases, people are coming to us with a lot of artistic background. So what I try to do with the art program is kind of create, and what the Willow kind of at large is doing is creating like this space and very specific time to focus on creating, you know, whether that be painting or doing a different techniques with acrylics or watercolors, or sometimes we will we're going to be making like sensory bottles soon, and we sometimes will mold things or work with clay. A lot of the kiddos will work with Play-Doh. Having those experiences to get in touch with sensory experience and creation and visual art in a positive and sort of relaxing and reprieving way to maybe the other stressors of life is something that gives these survivors a chance to explore a really positive sensory experience and make something out of maybe a time in their life that hasn't been overwhelmingly positive.
And I really want to point that out again and kind of reiterate that we're using a lot of survivor art in our most recent annual report. And as part of that, I was talking to a few folks who have worked with the art program, and one of the quotes was that it gives an opportunity for people to be kind of engaged in one activity, which then opens up the creative side of the brain and allows for conversations that wouldn't necessarily happen otherwise, because you can start by talking about the art and then you can kind of move into other conversations. So there's really that practical aspect of it as well that is not as tangentially related to the process of creation, but by starting with the creation, you then move on to talking about the more important things and dealing with more in-depth issues. So I think that's really a fascinating and an important point of the whole process, and something that I'm really glad we're able to show some of these works. Now, just to let everybody know, the survivors have all agreed to let us go ahead and show these works. So we don't use obviously any names for confidentiality, but we will be kind of talking about them on a piece by piece basis. So I am going to switch us over. Also, before I do that, let me remind you, we are on Facebook Live. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment field. Devorah McKenzie said earlier, ready to see the interview. Well, Devorah, I hope you're enjoying it. And Balin Schneider said 3 exclamation points. So right on, right on.
Thank
But
you.
we'd love to continue to hear your thoughts and feedback as we go through this. But let's just talk about these now. Bailey, do you happen to know the specific time frame? I know these are all kind of pieces that have come up within the last year, but I'm not sure kind of specifically what the time frame is.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. I would like to say probably around this time last year through the summer. I know a lot of these are kind of fairly recent. I might be able to provide a little bit of insight. Like I know this one was done sooner to now than it was maybe later. So maybe this one was like spring, summertime. Just for instance, I might have a little bit of an idea on those. As you said earlier, I am newer to the program, so I'm not exactly positive on all of that, but I might be able to give a little bit of an idea.
I certainly know that there are a lot of these that I haven't seen. And last year we did a gallery showing as well for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we'll say within the last year, I think we're pretty safe there.
Yeah.
But yeah, this first one is, do you want to tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah, so this is a canvas piece using acrylic paint and a sponge. As you can kind of see, the willow leaves were made using kind of like a little sponge technique of kind of printing that acrylic over and over again, and then kind of going back in with another color. I think the prompt for this one was just a willow in general. So that kind of got taken in a lot of creative directions, as you'll kind of see throughout the show. And this is kind of one of the examples where we have kind of a vast variety of mediums with a similar subject type that we can see maybe the different ways that people will go with just one inspiring image or idea.
Margaret, using a symbol like this, or prompts in terms of working with folks, what's the advantage of that sort of a situation? Like giving someone a prompt rather than just saying, "Here, go for it," whatever you want.
Well, especially working with adults, a lot of times adults, it's hard to get started. I mean, you're just, it's like anybody starting with a blank page is kind of intimidating. And I think when you're talking about art materials and maybe somebody hasn't used art since they were in school, so it can be a little intimidating. And so starting with a prompt or having a theme is really helpful. It gets somebody's brain going,
Yeah.
It starts the flow. I was going to say earlier about art. One of the things, and Bailey, you were saying that it's not not a art therapy program. I have to say, I differ with you. I say just having an art program at a place like the Willow is therapeutic. And even if you're not trained as an art therapist, so to speak, just simply having that group is therapeutic. And all of the research shows that whether you're at the Willow or whether you're not, practicing an art form, there's all sorts of physical and mental health benefits to it. And, it actually lowers your cortisol levels. It's very similar. It's exactly parallel to the practice of meditation. And so just simply having that at a place like the Willow or other shelter or other situations where you're dealing with people who are in very not great times in their lives, just simply having that available is incredible. It's very, very therapeutic. So I commend the Willow for including art in your programs. So anyway, I digress. So having a prompt just helps people get started. It makes a situation that might be anxiety provoking less so.
Yeah, I can imagine there could be some difficulties with feeling like it was a little bit of a hard thing to get into if you're not used to it, doing something like doing art.
It also helps frame like what you were saying. Talking about a work of art, starting there and then having it lead to something that's more deeply personal, a conversation that's more deeply personal. It's much easier to talk about a piece of art and the contents of your artwork than it is about yourself, right? But your artwork is really just a projection of yourself. But it's easier to talk about it because that's where it's a good place to start. So there you go. And having
Like
a
it.
prompt also frames the conversation, can begin to frame a conversation.
Bailey, this one, I dig the title, XOXO. Can you tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah, so this was another one where there was kind of a similar prompt idea, but also a little bit more of a direction on maybe some of the technique. I know that in a lot of the works featured in this last year, there's been kind of the splatter technique, which is one of my favorite things to do because it's kind of freeing. It's like, again, it's like you don't have to exactly match an image. You don't have to paint in the lines. You know, take the paint and you splatter it on there. You get to kind of have a little bit more freedom to just enjoy the process versus kind of trying to exactly get something right. So this is kind of like a free form rose, which this survivor used a lot of different techniques, including the splatter. Also looks like, you know, some painting and some just free form drawing. It has how these interesting lines and movement to it. It's kind of unique in that way. And then they did it on a blue background, which is a little bit different than maybe you'd see maybe you'd expect, I guess, that you'd expect a white background and it's different color. So
yeah, I find the jagged edges on the leaves there, combined with the eyes that are not necessarily the kindest eyes. They're a little bit some angry eyes there, and the XO on the side. It's a very interesting kind of mixed message about the beauty of the rose juxtaposed with some imagery within it that is congruous with it, but it is a little bit menacing. It's an interesting piece that way.
This is a piece that speaks 1,000 words, right?
Yeah, it definitely has a lot going on underneath the surface of a fairly simple kind of prompt, you know.
Yeah,
we'll keep on keeping on, and we got another one from, I'm guessing, that same series, right?
yeah, excuse the phone there. One moment.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this one is I really love the color work in this one. Taking the red of the rose and, you know, putting the background behind it in the same kind of set of colors gives it a feeling of movement, of action.
Mm-hmm. The
thorns, interesting texture.
Thorns are really beautifully done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those thorns.
Yeah, I like, my favorite part of this one is definitely kind of the white accents. Those highlights really give it some dimension.
Nice. We'll just keep moving on because we got a few to get to. Tell us about this one.
I love this one. I looked at all the pieces before this, so I, you know, was sort of familiar before we got started. This is one of my favorite pieces in the whole thing.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too. This was definitely, I love the pastel work. I think it's really interesting how they did kind of a smudging technique and then also used it, you know, in a very direct, angular way.
It's very, like, the contrast. I mean, just aesthetically as a work of art. I mean, art therapy, let's set that hat. I'm taking that hat off and I'm putting my, you know, artist hat on. Just the contrast of the feel and the touch and the line in this is lovely. I mean, it's absolutely lovely and kind of almost lyrical, right? So as a piece, it's just really, and then it looks really simple, but then you keep looking at it and it becomes extremely complex. And you kind of start, like, for me, I start to wonder, like, you know, what's in the background? What is that? And I mean, it's lovely. So, you know, art therapist hat back on. I can also see that it was, you know, a very freeing experience, like whatever the prompt was and whatever the technique you guys were using, this person was really exploring it and was getting into that.
Yeah, that simplicity, that almost childlike simplicity to it when you take that first glance, and then you start looking back, and even like the chalking, what looks like chalking on top, you know, gives it that kind of real youthful kind of feel to it at first, but then the background is so rich and complex, and there's so much movement there. It's pretty neat study.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that. We're getting into the skulls now. We had several with skulls. Let's talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, this is one of the former art program directors is a big skull fan. So she did quite a few skull pieces, and we're lucky to have them. They look really cool. This technique was really neat. Once again, kind of back to that splatter. Also using salt and ice to like paint with, created some of these, like on the bottom, if you can see those kind of textures. And throughout the painting, there's some of that texture as well. So you get this really clean image of a skull. You know, it's obvious what this is, but then kind of get some of those more distressing and different textures and colors in there that kind of add a little bit more to the story.
I'm into that bow.
The bow on top there,
right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say we got a comment from the comments. Devorah says all the colors in the last few have been lovely, and I think that's an excellent observation. It has been a really interesting mix on all of them. They've been distinct in the types of, in the shades and the shadings and the composition, but it has been really a lot of rich color work throughout these pieces.
You know, just commenting on that, as you know, I was looking through all the pieces before we were, you know, doing this on the Facebook's live. One of the things that I have to say, Bailey, I want to compliment you on is that clearly it's a group or an experience where people are really able to be themselves in it and feel, you know, they're not, people aren't turning out, I don't think. It didn't look like people were turning out kind of like cookie cutter art class kind of, you know, that kind of thing. It looks as if it's a place where really people can really be themselves and be free to be themselves in it. And that was very clear just looking at all the pieces.
That's just a big part of the Willow in general. Like we focus on empowerment, and like that's something that is crucial to me, especially in an art space, that people feel empowered to make their own choices with their work. And I'm glad that comes through.
Mm-hmm. It was very clear to me looking at the work that that's the case.
Mm-hmm. As the resident non-visual artist, can you talk me through the salt and ice technique? I had to put that up on the captions for a few, and I felt a little out of my depth there. What is that technique, and how does that fit into what we're seeing here?
So you can like basically, if you use like a watercolor, if you just start painting with it, you know, it's based in water, you can just sprinkle salt on top of it, and it kind of like will create those breaks in the paint, if that makes sense. It just adds some texture to it, and then when it dries, it kind of just, the salt comes off, and then it leaves you with that interesting pattern. And then the ice is similar, you know, it's just you're adding like a solid form of water. So when you put the ice on top of a watercolor, it like spreads it out and kind of does its own thing once it melts, and then you have kind of a little bit more of a spread out splotch of color.
It's really, that process is, again, like in complimenting Bailey. I'm sorry, I'm complimenting you a lot today.
That's fine. You can do that.
Do it. That using that kind of technique, which is, you know, it's a little unpredictable what's going to happen, right? You don't know how the ice is going to melt. You don't know where the salt's going to land, right? Think of that metaphor about life.
Or get a computer charger real quick.
Go for it. Life is life. You can't expect everything, Bailey. But it's, I mean, that's you know, in terms of just like bringing an art therapist perspective to it, that kind of technique. I mean, think of that metaphor about life, that, you know, you can't expect everything, but you can handle it. Right? Whatever happens, you can handle it. And in the end, you might end up with something in handling it, something beautiful, or at least something that you learned about. And I mean, in that salt and ice technique, using that is a very, you know, non-threatening way of approaching that subject, right? So everything in art therapy is all about metaphor. So you're always talking about the metaphor, and you're communicating in art therapy when you're in an art therapy group. There's something, when you're an art therapist, there's something called you're speaking within the metaphor. So you might be talking about how unpredictable the ice and the salt is with the material that you're using and what it's doing, right? That's the metaphor for somebody to talk about how unpredictable life can be. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
that
that's
absolutely. Yeah,
that's very key. Hmm.
I can imagine that is really resonant for people who are working with it. To take that and let that sort of, because that is a lot of life is just sort of that chaos that you can't control, but trying to make
Hmm.
something beautiful out of that is really
Right.
is the goal.
And and it's a beautiful metaphor. So taking, Bailey choosing to use that in the group. I mean, and it's just fun. I've done it's really fun. That stuff is really fun to do. It's a great way to start that conversation. So
All right. Well, we'll
nice
move
work.
on to the next one. I think
Okay.
Bailey's trying to get in, so hopefully he'll be.
Oh,
He's with us now
Bailey's here.
again,
Yep.
which is awesome. Okay. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. Tell us a little bit about this one, Bailey.
All right, I'm back, by the way. Okay.
Hey.
Bailey.
Apologies. The computer lied about how much juice it had left, but all right, we'll move on. So this is really fun. We have a lot of different textures to play with in the art room. We keep a lot of things like bubble wrap or just like different things like that just to use as textures. So this was like a pastel piece that was done like if you put the paper on top of the texture and then kind of rub the pastel onto it just to transfer that pattern onto there, you get kind of all those cool lines and breaks. So that was what was done here.
Yeah, that is. I really, again, it's one of those that's really simple on its surface, but the more you start to kind of look at it, the more kind of complex and interesting and it gets, because you start thinking about the meaning of those colors and the meaning of that composition. And I think there's a lot there that's under the surface, particularly with the red traditionally associated with the heart being the outside border on this one, and the kind of brown, which we traditionally assume as a border, being the actual what the heart is made out of. I just think that's a really cool color swap up.
There's a lot going on in this one, even
Well,
though it's incredibly simple, right?
yeah. We'll keep going because we got a fair few more to get through, and I want to see if we can get through as many as we can before we run out of time here. This is another one of the skull skeleton pieces, but looks like kind of a very different stylistically. Bailey, you want to tell us about this one?
Yeah, similar thing to the last thing. You can see a lot where the salt has been sprinkled onto the piece. You can see those very clear.
I'm sorry. Like I keep pointing like other people can see.
I know. I'm like, can you see that? Yeah, like down under the mouth in that blue area, as well as like kind of watercolor going on here. I couldn't tell you exactly. I did not create this image or like work with this image specifically, but I'm pretty sure they transferred this on with kind of like ink or something, and then used watercolor and water to spread that image around, which kind of gives it that wispy effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's super menacing, this one. I really am. I'm not sure if it's but I'm very compelled by the darkness of that skull with the lightness and brightness of the colors, and the light, the towny in me can't help but notice that it's very much like the Jayhawk colors, whether that's intentional or not, that kind of red, yellow, blue. And so it really, which are traditionally very bright celebratory colors in the context of my life, and putting that in juxtaposition with that real dark imagery, it's really fascinating and disconcerting. It makes that skull that much more scary.
Agreed.
This is a very moving one. I wouldn't say
Yes.
I don't. It's not something that you like. You know what I'm saying? But it's something that you find very affecting, right?
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
expressive.
Absolutely. And this one is kind of harks back to the purples of that other Willow piece from earlier.
Yeah. Very similar thing going on, same techniques. Gives that haunting effect for sure of like, evoking some childhood memories and not you know, the colors give kind of a very haunting aura, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I'm interested by the figure here. I mean, I think it's a figure, and to my mind, it's playing as sort of somebody with their head bowed, kind of down there in front, but disconnected, kind of head from the body. Again, it's another one where at first glance it seems like one thing, and then it seems a little bit more menacing when you kind of stop and think about it a little bit more. All right, let's talk about robot.
Yeah, super fun. Something that I really love about acrylics is the ability to build with them, and build texture and color. We have like matte medium and mixing medium, which are just different mediums that you can mix with acrylic paint to create levels and textures within the piece. This artist also created a lot of texture with, you know, using different tools like palette knives, fingers, all kinds of things. So it's a very unique amalgamation of medium, which I really appreciate.
Sorry, there was something really loud. I'm at the art center. There was something really loud going on out there.
No worries. Any thoughts on this one, Margaret?
You know, it's just, it's beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful, I mean, the again, that you can really see someone really experiencing the materials, you know, and playing with the materials, and then something is starting to come of it. Does that make sense? Like I imagine, just looking at this, I can imagine what the process was, you know, watching, I can almost feel like I can imagine watching the person produce this and how they got to this. And, you know, as an, you know, just again, art therapist hat off, artist hat on, just as an abstract piece, it's pretty lovely, right? That hat off, art therapist hat on, you can see somebody experiencing materials and feeling free to do that and getting into that flow state, and then something is starting to form with it, which is exactly the process you want to have happen when you're intentionally providing art materials as a therapeutic experience for people. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. I think too the black card as the background for this. Again, it's something that adds to my context, not being a trained visual artist, but to my context, it reminds me of projects that we used to do in childhood days. So it brings that kind of childlike quality to it. And then what you're seeing, you know, and so there is that, and there's that whimsy to it that really I think is neat, as well as looking like all this just splashes of color coming out of an absolute void, which is really cool too. So.
And just saying that, like, you know, you mentioned a black card, that is critical to this piece, right? Because you can, what it does is that black it's like as if, you know, think about how a memory or a thought happens in your head, and if you want to visually represent that, this is kind of perfect. You know, it's coming out of the darkness and it's coming out, and it forms into something. And the black card, the black background is critical to that. I'm getting cheesy interpretive, sorry.
No, love it. Ocean
classes.
Ocean Nightlife. This one made me so happy. It's just so happy making.
Yeah, agreed. Watercolors in the kind of cool tones that, and a few warm tones as well, which I think was a very interesting choice. You know, you get primarily cool tones piece, and then you get kind of these splashes of warm tones, which are super unique. And once again, we can see a lot of the different techniques going on, obviously using some different techniques with the one medium. It's nice. I love this one.
Beautiful.
All right, we'll keep moving on. Maps, acrylic using a drip technique. Can we talk a little bit about the drip and glitter?
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah.
So this was, a technique using acrylics with some of that matte, like some of that thinning medium, or kind of like this liquid medium that makes the acrylic have some more movement, I suppose is the right word for it. That allowed the artist to basically take the canvas and like drip paint onto it, if that makes sense, like either with a brush or with a tube, and then just kind of let that fall down, and then you can like straighten the canvas back out and stop the drip. So you kind of get some control. Also, like before the drips occurred, there's some background going on as well, just painting, and then it was sealed with like a clear glitter, like Mod Podge, sort of decoupage, I guess is the right word for it, to give it kind of a sheen and some vibrancy.
Excuse me. Going back to, again, like such a great choice in an art group at Willow, this kind of material, going back to that idea, the metaphor, liquid paint, and you can't really predict, when you're moving it, you can't predict where it's going to go, right? But you can kind of control it. You can learn how to control it, right? I mean, that metaphor is so powerful. I mean, it's powerful anywhere. It's powerful in a kindergarten classroom, it's powerful in my own studio, and it's really powerful at a place like the Willow.
I agree.
This absolutely reminds me. It puts me right in the headspace of driving through the desert. It just puts me in the Southwest instantly, and the feeling of a lot of movement, and it's really really cool. Just bouncing back to the comments here. Christy Scanlon Dobson says, "Great conversation, all." Thank you, Christy. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. And Deborah says, "Love this one." I think that was in reference to the previous piece, the nightlife, the sea nightlife, the ocean nightlife. So she really liked that one, and I think
that piece reminds me of, there's a contemporary. I think it's a British painter, and I can't remember this person's name, but it looks like their work, and it's like in the Tate, stuff like that, and really very famous painter. This is beautiful.
Yeah,
Bailey, tell us about Love.
This one's so fun. This artist repurposed a t-shirt, which is that big print you see on the front. They used kind of like decoupage matte medium stuff to glue that onto their background, and then they adorned it with like some little rose details, some little stickers. It's just a really fun multimedia piece. I love it. Not to be cheesy with the pun, but it's great.
Yeah,
it's very it's I mean, it's pretty sophisticated.
I know, it's great.
Not that it wouldn't, but given there's like the little gold star teacher sticker, you know what I mean? Like, here, you get a gold star. Like, it totally adds some whimsy and kind of whimsy to it. It's really very clever.
Yeah, I think this one's super clever too.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're getting towards the end of our time, so we'll do a few more, and then we will have the whole. This has been fantastic conversation. We'll have the whole gallery on display, and we'll tell everybody you can get to that through the website, and you'll be able to access that anytime. So please, if you're watching, make sure to have a look at the rest of the pieces. But I just want to, as we're sort of winding towards the end, thank both of you for coming and talking about this. It's been a fantastic conversation, and certainly something that I always love getting together to talk about these, because so many of them do seem deceptively kind of simple at first, but then are so much richer when you kind of dig into them and talk about them. How about Lotus Eye, Bailey?
Oh, this one's fun. I love the different shapes going on here. The prompt for this was just to draw eyes. We have a lot of really cool eyes pieces kind of in our collection at this point. Loved this one just for some of the colors and the liberty that this person took. There's some wax resistance going on, where they would take wax and color and then use different mediums over that to show those white lines in the back. So that one's neat for that.
And then the Joker is kind of a similar,
Mhm.
yeah. And then lace wings here. So again, that salt and ice technique
Mhm.
is real nice.
It's cool, right? I really
Yeah,
love it.
I
It's
love
like,
the.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I love the color, the color blast of the purple up top and the yellow down below.
This piece, this is another one of my favorites is, and I have to say every single one of these pieces, like Will, what you said is looking through, if somebody's, I encourage people to look at every single piece in this show because they're all, even the ones that seem really simple, there's so much depth to each of them. And it's such a pleasure to look at them, and to be able to see that depth in artwork. This piece, what I found very moving because to me it looks like, yeah, I'm a kind of a sci-fi fantasy person. Like I love, that's my jam when it's movies and books and stuff. Um, and so this looks like it's like almost as if a fairy or a sprite kind of emerging from another dimension,
Oh
you know?
yeah. Yeah.
And you can see, I just imagine it's her. You can see her and she's coming into
Oh, I see what you're
into our
talking
world.
about in that like that middle figure a little bit.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
just find that, I mean, it's so perfectly articulates that.
Mhm.
I just
Yeah,
keep looking at it. I love this piece.
it's interesting. I must admit, I saw sort of a butterfly-ish
Mhm.
figure early on, but I didn't put together the kind of figure in the middle there as much until you mentioned it. But that's pretty fascinating.
Mhm.
Let's end on this one. In My
I
Head.
love
Can you
it.
tell us a little bit about In My Head?
Yeah, this is a kind of decoupage, glittery collage, which is something that a lot of us here are fond of, just in general, always cutting out collage pieces here in shelter. Collaging, I think, is such a phenomenal way to repurpose maybe phrases, words, letters,
Mhm.
images that may have meant something at one point into something that is meaningful to you, which is often, parallel to life. We have to take what we experience and make what we can out of it. Um, and this piece is one of my favorites. I love the inspirational and positive messages that come out of it, and how the figure there is having these things come out of their head into this colorful world. And I really love this piece. It's like it's very unique to me. It really speaks to me.
There's a lot to it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to, like, it's one of those pieces, when you see pieces online, um, it's one of those pieces I want to see in real life. Do you know what I mean? Because I know
Yeah,
there's so much more depth in there.
There's still a lot of texture to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see like there's rhinestoney kind of things, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's totally one of those pieces that I'm like, I want to see that in real life.
Yeah,
I
for
am
sure. Yeah.
hoping one of the reasons we had to put this online is because we were still feeling like it wasn't quite COVID safe to
Of
do an
course.
indoor event yet. But what I
Well,
am hoping is next year is the 45th anniversary of the Willow, and I'm hoping that we can have a summer exhibition with a lot of
Oh, that'd be
these.
awesome.
Yeah,
We can get
yeah,
some more collages going for that.
nice, nice. So yeah, I think because I absolutely agree with you, and I would love to see these. And we did last year. We did a display, or 2 years ago, we did a display at the art center in the basement. That was really fantastic. And then the year before
really
that,
cool.
we did some work at the percolator. And so I would love to see us be able to put these up, and I'm hoping we will next summer. Um, I want to just thank you guys for your time. I really, really do appreciate it. Um,
For
just
inviting
I,
me.
just going to throw in some plugs. Margaret, do you have anything to plug for the art center that you'd like to
Everything.
talk
The art center. I'm gonna plug the art center.
about?
Um, we're totally the hub, man. We've got classes going on. We've got the Nutcrackers coming up, which will be live. It's, we didn't have Nutcracker
Yeah.
last year, and which was heart wrenching. And so it's back. It's COVID safe, which the logistics were crazy. The ghost tour is happening now and this weekend, and it
Oh
is
yeah, that other Averill.
that
Yeah.
other Averill. It is fantastic. Rave reviews about it, and it's gonna sell out. So if somebody's interested in going to it, go online right now and get your ticket, because it will absolutely sell out. You know, we have a great dance performance coming up called Alinea. It's a company from it's the Tristan Griffin company from Kansas City, and it's a modern contemporary piece, and it takes place a lot in the dark, which is really interesting. Think of dance in the dark.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's
There's but it's a stunning. If you like dance, and even if you don't, it's fascinating, and it's a stunning piece of work. And then also Ghosts of Segregation is a show that we have up. It's Rich Frischman is a Pulitzer Prize winning photographer, this has been kind of the project of his lifetime. And what he's done is he's photographed the remnants, or the physical, architectural evidence of segregation that we all live with every day, and maybe we don't notice. And so they're absolutely powerful photographs, and it's one of those rare works of art where the meaning of it is profound, and equal to that profound meaning is the technique, and the aesthetic quality of it is stunning. So it's a rare thing to witness. So I encourage people to come to that. That's up through December 12th.
great. And if somebody has seen tonight's thing and wants to get some art in their life, take some classes, what's the best way to go about doing that?
Website, lawrenceartcenter.org.
There we go. I love to hear it. Love to hear it. Bailey, anything from the art program that you wanna talk up at the moment?
No, just take a look at the show online. It's very easy to access. It's on our website. It's on Facebook. You can see it. The survivors work really hard on their pieces, and they deserve to be seen by people. And I hope you all take a look at those, and check them out.
I apologize we couldn't get to all of them, but
that's okay. We were chatting. We were having a good discussion.
I saw the beautiful work. I mean, beautiful work.
Yeah.
Very beautiful work.
Everybody who's watching and everybody who will come to watch, this is the last event that we're doing for our Domestic Violence Awareness Month activities this October. So you'll have to wait till next October, but it's going to be a very exciting time next year for the Willow. We're opening, I think, back up hopefully to some live events is the plan as of now, but everything in the world is changeable. It's the 45th anniversary of the Willow Agency, so we're hoping to have some big celebrations around that. And of course, next October, it's also Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we will hopefully bring you some more new art. This is something we like to keep producing on a regular basis. If you have any questions, feel free to send us. I put the email in the comments. You can also go visit the entire gallery display at willowdvcenter.org/art show. And that is up from now on. So you can go ahead and check that out. Come back to it as often as you like. If you have any thoughts on it, you can get a hold of us through the website. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Bailey. Really appreciate it. And thanks for helping me draw Domestic Violence Awareness Month to a close in a really cool and really interesting way. I appreciate it.
Thank you both.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.